Women in leading positions have always had to use clothing to reinforce and project their authority and success. An exhibition of women fashion power at London's Design Museum charts just how much women's dress has changed over the last 150 years as their position in business has evolved. From the Edwardian suits through to 1980s power dressing and beyond.
Yet even today, the list of powerful, pioneering businesswomen remains depressingly short. Fashion and beauty are some of the few areas in which powerful women do spring readily to mind. Fashion designers, for example, like Vivienne Westwood, Diane von Furstenberg, Coco Chanel. But if you think about other areas, like civil engineering or banking, it is much harder to list prominent women.
If you look at the overall statistics, it's clear. Of the FTSE 100 companies, just 5 have female CEOs. Just 23 of the Fortune 500 companies in the US are led by a woman. The Bank of England may have been employing women as clerks since 1894, but there's yet to be a female governor.
The blatant discrimination in organisations has gone legislation, all sorts of initiatives. But we still have lots of what we call second-generation bias, and this really comes from organisations being run by men and the work practices being organised around male behaviour. So just to give some examples, might be sort of regular 5 p.m. meetings at the end of the afternoon, which at first thought you think, well, nothing of it. But actually, for young women who are perhaps dashing home because they've got caring responsibilities, it makes it very difficult. There was a very interesting study done last year by the 30% Club called Cracking the Code, and one piece they looked at in these large organisations were that actually nearly every major company has a high potential leadership programme, and in every single one the average was that only a third of the participants were women. What does that tell us? Do women suddenly become incompetent? I think not.
It's not that women are less entrepreneurial or inventive than men. The dishwasher, disposable nappies, and the circular saw are just a few of the long list of items invented by women. In the US, just under a third of all companies, around 29%, are owned by women. But if you look at the big companies, the ones with more than 10 million in annual revenues, the number owned by women is just 6%.
In my experience over the past 15 years running Ariadne Capital, backing, hundreds of entrepreneurs, of which a good majority of them have been women, and seeing how the rest of the venture community or investors look at the women entrepreneurs that come through, I think it just really comes down to we tend to understand and therefore be able to evaluate more easily people who are like ourselves. I'm not even sure that there's ill intent, but there's definitely a need for people to go out of their way to put on a different pair of glasses. So regardless of what you think about the issue, I think what's clear is that a lot of the feminine leadership qualities are going to be determining success in the future. So if you're not a woman, that means I think as a man you have to develop those and you have to kind of compensate for your bias.
When a woman does make it, becomes someone that we can call a business pioneer, this is a pretty extraordinary feat. So are there particular characteristics that such women have?
Women are more apt to stay within their area of specialisation, to stay with the skills that they know they've established and that they're very good at.
Though there are still huge imbalances in the numbers, slowly the situation is starting to improve. We're getting close this year to UK boards being 25% female. Venture funding to female-led companies is increasing, albeit from fairly low levels. And perhaps the most telling outward sign of these changes is this: the 1980s power suit. It's now such a cliche, it's over the top. Because today's powerful women don't need such a structured suit to declare themselves as someone belonging to the business world. As more women begin to reach genuinely powerful positions, there's a collective growth in confidence, and the clothes just don't need to shout as loud.